What is autism? Autism is categorized by the Diagnostic Statistical Manual as a pervasive developmental disorder. The diagnosis is confirmed by a marked absence of or significant difficulties in social interaction and communication, by an extremely limited range of... This is a nice definition, but it doesn't truly explain what autism is.
It's so difficult because autism is different for every person who has it. For me, it means I'm not as social. It means my mind works differently. It means many things that we would have to go into detail.
It means that I have a social deficiency where I'm not as social as most kids usually at my age are, or since I've been little. Usually I'm just very, very quiet. I'm not very social with everyone around me.
In my eyes as a parent, I can tell you it's probably one of the most difficult things in order to describe because all symptoms are different. But those symptoms vary from someone who's thinks way outside the box or someone who has trouble concentrating in class. People have social issues. You've had that at times with being able to be social with other people. So autism basically is a broad spectrum disorder, and there's lots of different symptoms from OCD to pervasive developmental disorder to more severe symptoms of autism, and it's the best way I know how to describe it is it's just a disorder, and it is also, it's not just a physical at times, but it is definitely both mental and physical and a chemical imbalance.
Okay, when I hear the word autism, mainly what I think is it's usually a person who has trouble communicating or interacting with other people, but there's always that other side that there's a gift of something, and you got to find that gift. With experience, it's always something different. Like, for example, my first year teaching, I had an 8th grader. I was teaching middle school, and his thing was birthdays, and he could remember your birthday. So you'd always ask him when he got a little excited or there's that moment where things were going to get out of hand, quickly ask, when was so-and-so's birthday? Oh, that was May 31st, 1985 or whatever. And then you'd say, what day is that going to be on the year 2000? He'd immediately reply Tuesday. And so we'd get him back that way, and then we could focus him back on what he had to do. But it was amazing with how quickly he just saw the answers. But usually that's what I always think of, is that they're really strong in some side, one thing. And then, of course, communication tends to be a harder, more difficult thing, interacting with other people.
If you look under your umbrella, you will see 5 different kinds of autism. Now, because it's so broad, people want a concrete answer rather than sharing an umbrella. In the United States, 1 in 88 children at the age of 8 have been diagnosed with ASD. There are many other terms associated with autism, such as nonverbal learning disabilities, social emotional learning disabilities, Asperger's syndrome, PDD, NOS, executive function disorders, and even neurodevelopmental disorders of relating and communication. Because ASD is so broad, I have this to say. If you've met one person with ASD, you've met one person with ASD. Their traits vary from person to person, just like every other person on this world. Instructors, this next part is very important. Please pick up your pencils and take down notes for this section. These are the common traits of autism and related accommodations that you can do for these people. First, they may not understand and or reciprocate nonverbal communication, such as making eye contact when you want them to pay attention. Do not assume that they are not making eye contact. Just because they don't look at you doesn't mean they're not listening to you.
They appear not to focus. They may be sitting there playing with their nails or playing with a pencil. Stephen once took a pencil and took a nail and carved the entire pencil away until there was nothing but lead. One of his doctors still has the piece of lead in his desk and hands it to parents and say, that's focus. It's considered a hyperfocus, so teachers looking at think that you're not paying attention or you don't care about being in the classroom, and that's not fair.
They may also not understand the hidden social rules, such as being quiet in a classroom. They may interrupt the class, have outbursts, or just have blatant honesty in the wrong situation.
Heather would say things that other people wouldn't say. She would do things that somebody else wouldn't do. If she thought you were ugly, she said, you're ugly. And she wouldn't hide the fact. She said, no, because you're ugly. And that's what she would say. She said, well, because you're fat. And, you know, whatever was on somebody's mind, we wouldn't say it. We'd say, okay, well, that looks okay on you. No, Heather would tell you. She says, no, that looks like crap.
Yeah.
And she would use words and just dead flat, just like it is.
If you feel like they're still interrupting after all this, ask the student to write down his or her comments and then share them with you after the class. Also, they may not initiate social or personal relationships. You may find them just sitting there working on their own stuff while not verbally communicating with everyone else. If you have group sessions, do not request your class to select the groups. Ask a student helper ahead of time to ask your student with ASD to invite him or her to the group or draw numbers.
I think a lot, usually before I do something. I usually just think, analyze a lot, and that helps me a lot through a lot of things. I analyze, I think, before doing puzzles and stuff like that, are very like helping my brain move. I like doing puzzles and stuff like that, just working.
People with ASD may exhibit restricted, repetitive, or atypical behaviors like rocking, pacing, or other similar body movements. I'm a pacer. Basically, I pace around the room a lot. You may recognize me as the person who paces around in the cafeteria a lot. Hi, people, I'm that person. And thank you, cameraman. But back to the point. This pacing, I've noticed that people actually look at me and say, "Are you all right?" I say, "Yeah, this is just something I do." And of course, someone has jokingly said that if I pace around an airport, security might pull me over. And that actually scared me a bit, because then I realized, wait, that means I can't do this thing anymore? That's something that helps my mind think? But pacing isn't the only thing I do. Right now, you notice I'm talking. That's keeping my mind busy. But it's not keeping the rest of my body busy, right? In case you've been noticing, I've been moving my fingers on my hands a lot. This keeps me more focused. They may be extremely sensitive to lights, noises, visual distractions, and smells. For example, fluorescent lighting may cause someone to have severe headaches. Loud noises may cause someone to freak out and cause a distraction among themselves. Visual distractions are very common, as they can focus entirely on let's say, a picture of a map and not focus on what you are actually saying. So please be aware of this. And smell. Sometimes the smell is just so poor and pungent that everyone is affected, but not to the point where they can't stand to be in the classroom. So, I offer these suggestions. Allow the student to excuse his or herself from the class, and try to keep the distractions limited, especially during tests. You may also offer distraction-free testing to allow the student to focus on his tests. Common stressors can be significantly disruptive and may result in anxiety attacks or shutting down. Common stressors include something like bombardment with questions, which would cause them not to think properly or not answer at all. Emotional stress can also be a huge cause of shutting down. Do not force communication if you see this person struggling with stress.
If you see something like, something's off, I would say don't be like at my face. Pretty much be very calming and just say, is something wrong? Do you need anything? Or if you see I'm working on a worksheet and I'm like, then you can say, are you having a problem with one of these problems? I can help you. And just very, very just sitting there and like pretty much working with me very quietly and calming, because if you come at me very loud and very like, what you doing? I'll probably just be like nothing, and so that you can go away.
Some of the most common concerns that I've found with autistic students was a huge problem with our communication. We there was definitely a disconnect, and things that I would typically have used with other students were not effective with an autistic student. For example, I found that my typical questioning processes where I asked, where I would just say, do you have any questions? And it required a simple yes or no answer. The student would just respond with a firm no, I don't have any questions. And clearly I knew behind the scenes that the student was falling behind, and I knew that they needed that help, but I didn't want to force myself on that student. And when someone says, no, I don't have any questions, or no, I don't need your help, then I tended to back away.
They also may have difficulty with abstract and conceptual thinking, ironic considering that the ASD is abstract. Use concrete, literal terms as much as possible.
She doesn't understand like gray areas. Everything has to be black and white with Heather. And like I was saying, when we would go to the mall or we'd go shopping or something, like certain things we would be able to talk about or just hang out or do something, and Heather just kind of be like, huh? Like she wouldn't get what we were doing or why we liked this or why we wanted to go to this store. Because she was like, I don't like that store. Why are we even going in here? We're like, well, we're just... And we just want to, like, well, why? We're not going to buy anything. But she just didn't get it, why we wanted to go in there. We just wanted to look. Well, why are you going to go in there if you're not going to buy anything?
Avoid slang, idioms, double meanings, sarcasm, and nicknames. Of course, if you have to use the double meanings in your teaching sessions, then please do. Consider clarifying your main point in lectures. Avoid asking why questions. Asking a why question to someone with ASD is very frustrating to them because it takes them time to formulate an answer unless they already know it. If you must ask why questions, ask to the entire class as a group so that they can give their own advice. Encourage them to ask questions of their own accord. Try to use an alternative to essay testing. Extend the time of the test to formulate answers. Students with ASD may have difficulty organizing and structuring tasks and responsibility. Time management is a huge problem, I will admit. Help the students break their assignments down into small, simple, sequential steps. Give verbal or written prompts to remind students to turn in assignments or whatever the task at hand may be.
I usually like having good heads up, like getting a few announcements of what we're going to be doing in the next couple of days, so I know we can plan ahead for that.
Take a little time. If you see someone struggling, and go up to them and say, do you need 5 minutes? Or, when class is over, do you need to look over some notes?
Patience. You've really got to just try different things. And then when they're not working, is seek help. With myself, we tried to find other people that were actually experienced in it and able to help us. And we had multiple people coming in trying to make sure that he was successful, that our last student was successful. It's very difficult, but you've got to go out and find out. You've got to go out and ask help. You know, you can't do it all on your own. There are people who may have dealt with that student and have found that little niche that works for him. So that'll knock off a lot as far as your learning curve with how to deal with that situation, how to make sure you're successful, which is our main goal.
And I sought out some help from our counselors, and they, you had suggested, well, I should ask questions in the form of a choice, where I would ask the particular student, would you prefer me to help you with number 10 or number 12? And by giving the student a choice, that let the student know that they had to pick one of those, and also gave me an invitation to go ahead and offer my help. And they knew that I was going to offer that help, and they were much more receptive. I didn't feel like I was forcing myself on the student at that point, because they had been given that choice, and they knew that I was going to help them with that particular question. And then I could also ask them, well, would you like me to help you with this concept or that concept? And they, again, whenever I gave them a choice, we got somewhere.
Maybe the student in question may be extremely dependent on routine and sameness. Give the student advance notice on any class changes, such as meeting in the library or having a substitute teacher. Also give the student written notification of changes in deadlines or test dates. People with ASD often are more susceptible to depression, anxiety, and related mood disorders. This is also related to the emotional stretch and shutting down. If this student is having a health issue, he may take his problem and spread it to all his other problems that he's currently dealing with, which may also cause him to shut down.
And Heather would be upset. I wanted to talk to her. I wanted to be like, why are you mad right now? And she's like, I don't want to talk, and it was probably when we were like 14-ish, like teenager years, where I would want to talk to her and be like, why are you mad right now? And she just would shut me out. She would completely shut down, and it would make me so angry. I got to be so mad, and I'm the one that was like, I wanted to talk, and she wouldn't want to, and I would just push and push and push, and I started realizing I can't do that with her. She needs her space. She needs this, and one thing she would do that would used to make me so mad before I understood was she would hold grudges. If I did something towards her,
Yes.
if we did
She'd
anything,
remember it 3 months
like
later.
if we fought like 3 months ago, she would still be mad at me. She'd be mad at me forever. Wouldn't talk to me, didn't want to do anything. And then I said I was sorry. Like, what else do you want me to do? But then I realized she just needs time to process it, to do this. That was the biggest thing.
Please don't take behaviors and communication errors personally, and always respect privacy. Thank you.
I think some of the advice that I would give to instructors that may have an autistic student in their class would be that they should be patient with the student. Number one, definitely be patient, and number two, you will have to step out of your comfort zone and definitely seek out advice from our counselors, because they definitely provided me with a tremendous amount of support and helped me realize how I needed to change my communication skills, which was huge for me. So I think that those are two very big things, and not, and also not to be apprehensive about the situation, and to be they're just like any other student. They just need some extra TLC.
On the autism, I think the hardest part is just don't assume that they understand. And that's the biggest thing I've seen this all these years is that they don't give them the opportunity to say, and I know this is college, and I know it's a lot different than regular school, but you need to give somebody the opportunity to say what they need to say, or to do what they need to do, or to do it a different way. I can't get the concept of that, so let's try the concept another way. There's always more than one way to do something. And I think that would be a really benefit a lot of these kids, is because they can't, it's just like, I can't get that, you know, but if you, then that way, then it makes sense. Then they can incorporate it over here. But as long as they're stuck over here where this is the only way, and it's not making sense to them, you have to find another way. You got to do a back door. You know?
I would say the teachers really have a hard job. They have a hard job already as it is.
Yeah.
Ideally, it would be great to have a one-on-one so they know what the personal problems are, but that's just not going to happen. It would be more beneficial if they knew or were aware that they have such a child in such a student in their classroom, but because they can't, on the one hand, they need to know she's autistic or know whatever disability they have, but they can't personalize it or bring her or stand her out in front of the crowd because they don't like that either. So you've got to play a careful hand in how you deal with it, and just only that they know, they're aware of it, but don't put a spotlight on it, because if you do that, you're just going to make her shut down more. And try to get her in the mix, and if you see something that's not normal or doesn't, like everybody else is moving like this, and she's, just pay a little careful attention to the students. And I know it's going to be difficult, but that's why I tell her that she's got to be a little bit more. She's come a long way, and I think she's going to continue to do that.
To other instructors in the future, just don't be apprehensive, because more than likely, you've made it this far. You're not going to break the student. The students are resilient. They're tough. They've made it this far. But another thing is the other fellow students will be able to help. Plus, it's just the fact of all the staff that we have here on campus. You know, if I don't know something, my department head might know it, my division chair might know it, and it might be someone, my division secretary might know something. You know, so always be open to accepting help from everyone.
Oh yeah, and for our instructor's sake, I hope this has helped you. I really do.
Thank you, Stephen.
You're welcome, Miss Alice.